The weather finally opens up in Athens in April, and the city slowly begins to move outdoors again. Cafes fill up, the coastline becomes busier, Sunset Drive return. But above all, April in Greece is deeply connected to the Greek Orthodox Easter, one of the most important and emotional times of the year. April in Greece feels different. You smell tsoureki baking in the neighborhoods, church bells ringing more often, families gathering together. It's a month filled with traditions that most Greeks grew up with from childhood. And because religion still plays an important role in everyday life here, Easter becomes something the entire country experiences together. This month also brought beautiful spring drives along the coast to the southernmost tip of Attica, seafood lunches by the sea in Lavrion, and time spent catching up with friends visiting from abroad while trying a few new restaurants around Athens. And if you're new to this channel, my name is Elena, hospitality professional and Greece expert, and every month I take you around Athens and the Athenian Riviera to experience the city through the local life, traditions, food, culture, and hidden corners beyond the typical tourist highlights. So come on and experience Athens in April with me. As Holy Week begins, preparations start across the country. One of the most recognizable traditions is dyeing the eggs red, symbolizing rebirth and the blood of Christ. Another essential part of Easter in Greece is tsoureki, the sweet braided bread traditionally baked during this period. Every bakery in Athens fills with the smell of butter, malepi, and freshly baked bread. And honestly, this is one of those moments where Athens feels incredibly local. It's not performative, not touristic, just families continuing traditions they've followed for generations. Good Friday, or Μεγάλη Παρασκευή, is one of the most emotional evenings of the Holy Week. This is when the Epitaphios procession takes place across Greece. Here in Glyfada, we visited the church of Agios Nikolaos, where the church has been beautifully decorated with flowers. The Epitaphios symbolizes the tomb of Christ, and during the evening service, people follow the procession through the streets holding candles. The atmosphere is quiet, reflective, almost cinematic. Even if you're not religious, it's difficult not to feel moved by the experience. The following evening is Μεγάλο Σάββατο, the Holy Saturday. This is the night everyone waits for. The service starts late, and most people begin arriving at church around 11 or 11:30 p.m., holding candles. The priest shares the holy light, and within seconds the flame spreads from candle to candle across the crowd. At midnight the church bells ring loudly, and everyone says, Christos Anesti, Christ has risen. People then carefully bring the holy light back home with them, and after weeks of fasting, families usually gather to eat magiritsa, the traditional Easter soup served after midnight. And outside the churches, you'll usually hear firecrackers, or what Greeks often call krotidas, creating that loud, explosive atmosphere that marks the resurrection celebrations across the country. Easter Sunday in Greece is all about family, food, and celebration. Across the country, lamb and meat roast slowly for hours outdoors, while music plays and relatives gather together. And of course there's Tsugrisma, the traditional egg-cracking game where everyone tries to break each other's red eggs without cracking their own. It gets surprisingly competitive. One thing you notice during Easter is how quiet Athens becomes. Many Athenians leave for their villages or islands to celebrate with extended family. So areas like Vula and the coastline suddenly feel calmer and slower. And honestly, it's one of my favorite times to walk by the sea. Spring temperatures, fewer crowds, and that soft light Athens gets in April. Easter Monday is still a holiday in Greece, and since a friend was visiting from the United States, we headed downtown for dinner at Synapos in Thiseio. The restaurant is housed inside one of Athens' most historic neoclassical buildings dating back to 1845, which once served as a royal stables. The setting feels incredibly atmospheric. Tables are placed around the courtyard with a large olive tree at the center, creating that classic Athenian outdoor dining experience. The menu focuses on Greek meze dishes designed for sharing, inspired by flavors from Asia Minor. Another day we drove along the Athens Riviera coast towards Cape Sounion. This is one of the most beautiful coastal drives in Attica. The road follows the sea almost the entire way until you eventually reach the Temple of Poseidon, standing dramatically above the cliffs. The Temple of Poseidon dates back to the 5th century BC and was dedicated to the god of the sea. And honestly, the location is what makes it unforgettable. Standing here overlooking the Aegean, you understand why this became one of the most sacred places of antiquity. It is one of the best spots to catch the sunset, so make sure to plan accordingly if you can. One of the most famous stories connected to Sounio is linked to King Aegeus, who according to mythology threw himself into the sea from these cliffs believing his son Thiseio had died. And this is also where Lord Byron famously carved his name into one of the temple's columns during his travels through Greece. You can still see the inscription today. The best way to visit the Temple of Poseidon is either on a guided tour, you'll find my recommended tour in the description box below, or by renting a car and spending the day exploring the area. Most visitors stop only at the Temple of Poseidon, but across the site you'll also find the remains of the Temple of Athena, something many people completely miss. And from here you get a completely different perspective overlooking the Temple of Poseidon from another angle. From Cape Sounion, we continue toward Lavrion. Today, the town is known for its marina and port, especially during the summer months when many sailing boats use it as a mooring point before heading into the Cyclades. But Lavrion's history goes back thousands of years. Its silver mines played a crucial role in the power and wealth of ancient Athens. Walking through Lavrion today, you still feel traces of its industrial maritime identity everywhere. And one of the best places to understand the area's importance is the Archaeological Museum of Lavrion. Inside the museum, you begin to understand that Lavrion was far more than a simple mining town. Thousands of years ago, Lavrion and the nearby Thorikos formed one of the most important industrial and cultural landscapes of the ancient world. Thorikos itself is considered one of the earliest settlements in Attica, and according to tradition, one of the original settlements united by Thiseio to form ancient Athens. Ancient stories link the area to Kephalos and Procris, while the Homeric hymn to Demeter mentions Thorikos as the place where the goddess arrived during her journey from Crete to Eleusis. At the center of the ancient settlement rises Velatori Hill, an area inhabited continuously for centuries. Archaeologists discovered traces of late Neolithic settlements, Mycenae tombs, workshops, early houses, and evidence that silver extraction was already taking place here during prehistoric times. Inside the museum, you'll see remarkable findings from the graves of Velatori, dating back from the geometric, archaic, and classical periods, including beautifully preserved vases, sculptures, and burials from the 5th and 4th centuries BC that reveal the prosperity of this mining community. In the center of the museum, there is a wonderfully restored mosaic floor from an early Christian basilica at Lavrion, which dates to the 4th and 5th century AD. And what becomes especially fascinating is realizing just how advanced the ancient Athenians truly were. They developed sophisticated ore washeries, underground mining shafts, metallurgical furnaces, and eventually minted the famous silver tetradrachms, iconic owl coins that became symbols of Athenian power across the ancient world. In fact, one of the most important hoards of Athenian tetradrachms, consisting of 282 silver coins, was discovered right here in Thorikos. Standing among these artifacts, you realize that Lavrion was not simply supplying silver. It was helping shape the economic, political, and cultural foundations of classical civilization itself. Steps from the museum stands the statue of Giovanni Battista Serpieri. He was an Italian-Greek mining engineer and entrepreneur who revived the Lavrion mines during the 19th century after recognizing valuable minerals still remained within the ancient slag heaps. His work transformed the area economically and industrially, although not without controversy and political debate at the time. Today, Lavrion still carries the fascinating mix of antiquity, neoclassical architecture, industry, and coastal life. And around the center, you'll find several relaxed fish taverns where you can stop for a leisurely lunch. Thorikos is a short drive from the town of Lavrion, and it's one of the oldest theater sites in Greece, so naturally we had to continue there next. Good day, guys. We're standing right in the center of the ancient theater of Thorikos. This is actually one of the world's oldest known theaters, and it's a free archaeological site. It's located very close to Lavrion and the Temple of Poseidon. It has huge significance with the quarries and the silver that was found here, the little coins that I'll show you in the video. And you can visit it for free, actually. It's a beautiful site, and as you can see, there's actually a lot of grass covering parts of the theater now because it rained a lot this season and it's quite green. So if you come in the summer, I guess it's not going to be as green. But anyways, come and enjoy. The Theatre of Thorikos is believed to be one of the oldest theatres in the Greek world, dating back to the late 6th century BC. Unlike the perfectly symmetrical theatres we often associate with ancient Greece, Thorikos has a unique horseshoe shape built directly into the natural slope of Velatouri Hill. What makes this place especially fascinating is that it was not separated from the everyday life. Around the theater there were houses, workshops, roads, and even mining galleries, revealing how closely culture and industry coexisted in ancient Thorikos. A small temple dedicated to Dionysos, the god of theater, once stood beside the western entrance, while nearby silver mines helped finance the rise of classical Athens itself. Standing here today, surrounded by the rugged landscape of Lavriotiki, you begin to understand that this was not only a mining settlement, it was a thriving cultural community connected to the foundations of ancient Greek civilization. We ended our day with lunch at Anemokiti tou Tarsana, located right next to the kite surfing beach. The atmosphere here is very relaxed and unpretentious. Portions are very generous, seafood is incredibly fresh, and the owner clearly enjoys experimenting with flavors and sauces. One of the standout dishes was the mussels cooked in feta and coriander sauce, and honestly it was fantastic. We also had beautifully grilled shrimp and scallops prepared simply with olive oil. It's the kind of place where you sit longer than planned because everything just feels really easy and relaxed. In the summer, it gets very busy, therefore reservations are highly advised. If you look on Google, this taverna gets mixed reviews. Let's just say the owner is a character, but you are guaranteed an excellent meal. On another evening, another friend visited Athens, and we headed to Taverna Ekonomou in Petralona. This historic taverna dates back to 1930 and originally started by serving just a few traditional stews. The restaurant sits inside a beautiful ochre-colored building slightly away from the historic center, and throughout the years it became a favorite gathering place for artists and intellectuals, including the famous Greek painter Alekos Phasianos, whose works still hang on the walls today. We ordered dalmadakia, fava, and lamb shank with potatoes, simple traditional dishes done properly. Another new restaurant we tried this month was Ekiben Kitchen South in Glyfada, and what I liked immediately is that it doesn't try too hard. The space combines Japanese influences with a relaxed coastal Athenian energy, while the cocktail bar adds a more social atmosphere to the experience. Between the music, warm lighting, open kitchen and bar area, it feels lively without becoming overwhelming. It's stylish but still approachable. The menu focuses on reimagined comfort food, familiar dishes elevated with restraint rather than unnecessary complexity. It started with the beef gyoza filled with dry-aged beef, followed by the beef carpaccio new style with ponzu, sesame oil and chives. What we really loved was the Ekiben garden salad that brought freshness with the greens, the broccoli, and the almond goma dar sauce. And honestly, sometimes the simple dishes are the most memorable. The chicken karaj, which is one of the popular dishes, arrived crispy, very juicy, and deeply comforting. It's served with teriyaki and Japanese mayo. We also tried one of their other bestsellers, which is the Ekiben smashed sando. It's laid with beef patties, cheddar onion, iceberg lettuce, and their signature sauce. The udon carbonara was also really interesting, combining guanciale, marinated egg yolk, pecorino romano, and bacon furikake in a way that somehow made Italian and Japanese influences work naturally together. Then came their new dish, which is the toban ribeye, which is served sizzling in a traditional Japanese ceramic cookware designed to retain heat. It's layered with shiitake mushrooms, soy, and wasabi with rice on the side. And overall, what makes Ekiben work so well is the balance. It's got good music, relaxed energy, comfort food with refinement, and pricing that still feels approachable for Glyfada. Another restaurant we visited this month was Napul'e in Vari, and honestly, from the moment you arrive, it doesn't feel like a typical restaurant experience. Recently named among the 70 best restaurants with pizza in the world, Napul'e has gained international recognition, but once you step inside, that part almost disappears into the background. The restaurant is housed inside the beautiful standalone ochre-colored building with a triangular roof and a small clock to the top. And somehow it almost feels like a quiet Italian train station. It's the kind of place where time slows down a little, and the atmosphere feels warm and very much lived in. The heart and soul of this restaurant is chef patron Francesco Granata, and what makes his story especially interesting is that before returning to his Neapolitan roots, he actually worked as an anesthesiologist and intensive care specialist. I've interviewed Francesco on my blog, so please go ahead and read the interview to learn more about his story. Cooking eventually brought him back to the traditions he grew up in Naples. We started our meal with burrata and confit cherry tomatoes on a bruschetta. The vitello tonnato followed, which is always one of my favorite Italian dishes, with tender veal and beautifully balanced tuna sauce. Then the panzanella arrived, tomatoes, burrata, olive oil, and a subtle sweet and sour flavor that makes it feel incredibly fresh and light. But honestly, the dish I would personally go back for immediately was the arancino giallo. It's crispy on the outside, rich and comforting inside. It's exactly the kind of food that feels very emotional rather than complicated. The pasta also stays very true to tradition. The carbonara with handmade fusilli holds the sauce perfectly. The Nerano feels very soft and creamy, and the Amalfi linguine brings that bright, lemony coastal flavor that immediately transports you somewhere in southern Italy. And of course, we paired everything with a Primitivo from Puglia, which is one of my favorite Italian wines. And the wine list here deserves attention on its own. It focuses heavily on Italian labels from different regions of the country, giving you the chance to move beyond the more obvious choices and actually explore Italian wine culture through the food. Although I didn't try the pizza this time round, you can actually watch the entire process happening in the open kitchen beside the wood-fired oven. And you immediately realize this is the proper Neapolitan pizza made with real respect for tradition, which makes perfect sense considering Napul'e was recently recognized among the best pizza restaurants in the world. We ended the evening with two desserts, a classic tiramisu with delicate coffee and cocoa flavors, followed by the semifreddo alla nocciola, a velvety hazelnut semifreddo with an amaretto center and coffee chocolate finish. It's a simple, comforting ending to this beautiful meal. And that was Athens in April for you. A month of Easter traditions, spring drives along the coast, long dinners with friends, and rediscovering corners of Athens that begin coming back to life as the city moves into spring. Thank you so much for watching this monthly series. If you enjoyed discovering Athens through my eyes, don't forget to subscribe because next month we continue exploring another side of the city together.